Hey everyone, I'm Hank.
And I'm Kate.
And we're back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between passing variables by value and by reference.
And to show this concept, we're going to talk about an overachiever athlete and how much water they drink and how far they run.
Awesome, let's get started.
Woo!
Alright, so before we start talking about values and references and all these crazy terminology, let's get an object class that we can work with. So the first object we're going to create today is a water bottle class. So first we're just going to go in here and make a new class and name it water bottle. And our water bottle class is going to be pretty simple. So the only field that we want is an int that's the number of ounces full that the water bottle is. So we're going to say private int ounces. And then we're going to make a constructor. So public and then the name of the class, water bottle. And it doesn't take any parameters, and we're going to initialize ounces in our constructor to 24. So we'll say that water bottles start out full in this world, and full is 24 ounces. Then, of course, if we want to do anything, if we want to be able to read this value, we need a getter for our ounces. So we can say public, and it returns our field. So we want the return type to be the same type as our field, public int get ounces. No parameters, and it just returns our ounces field. Awesome. Now this is not a very interesting water bottle because we can't do anything with it other than read the number of ounces. So if you think about what can happen with a water bottle, it can be full, or we can pour the water bottle out or drink it or something. So we can empty a water bottle. So we're going to make a method called empty that just empties the water bottle. So we're going to say public, and since it just does something, it doesn't return a value, it's going to be void. And the name of the method is going to be empty. Doesn't take any parameters, and we set the ounces field of our water bottle class to 0. Awesome, and now we have a water bottle class.
Okay, so now we have a water bottle, but we need a person to do something to this water bottle. So we're going to make an athlete. So let's go ahead and make an athlete class. And to do that, just like anytime we make a class, we're going to open up a new class. Great. And our athlete, we're not going to pass in anything when we make him or her, so we're just going to say public athlete, and it's just going to be an empty constructor. But we want our athlete to be able to do something to this water bottle, specifically drink the water bottle. So we'll make a method called public void, and it's void because it's not returning anything, it's just doing something to a water bottle that we're going to pass into the method. So public void drink, and it's going to drink a water bottle object. So water bottle, and we'll just name this variable bottle. And when you drink a water bottle, this athlete's working really hard, so we're going to say that they are emptying the bottle. So we'll say bottle.empty, and there we go. That's all we need for that method. Now let's make another method that causes the athlete to run, because this athlete's a runner, and we are going to say public void run, and we want to tell the athlete to run a certain amount. So we'll say int miles. And this athlete's an overachiever, so when you tell him or her to run, say 3 miles, they're going to run 5 more miles than that because they're such a big overachiever. So we'll say miles plus equals 5. And now let's go ahead and print out that value just so we can see what the miles variable is in our athlete class. So we'll say system.out.println miles after running, and we'll add that miles variable. Great, so now we have an athlete and we have a water bottle. So we're ready to go into the main method. Great, so let's go ahead and make our main class. So when you make a main class, same thing as usual. And we're just going to name it main because we're feeling very creative today. Awesome. And in our main class, we need to make our overachiever athlete. So we're going to say athlete overachiever equals new athlete. Remember, we had an empty constructor, so you don't need to put anything in there. And then we need a water bottle for that athlete to use. So we're going to say water bottle equals new water bottle. Great. So now we have an athlete named overachiever and a water bottle named bottle. Let's do something with the athlete, for instance. Okay, so because our athlete's an overachiever, when you tell them to run a certain miles, in our run method in athlete, it runs 5 more. So let's go ahead and decide how many miles we're going to tell the athlete to run. So we're going to make an integer called miles and set it equal to 3. So in this moment, the computer has laid out a spot in memory, and it's called miles, and it has the number 3 in it. Okay, so now let's print out what this value is right now in main. So system.out.println miles before calling run, or miles before running in main, and then we're going to add miles. Great. And now, if we were to print that, we should see 3, because that's what miles is in memory. Okay, now let's go ahead and ask the overachiever to run. So overachiever dot run, and we'll tell him to run miles. So let's talk about what happens in this moment. And a particular thing happens because miles is a value type, a primitive value type, rather than a reference type. This means that when we go to void run and we pass in this miles value, it's going to replace this value here. And so in that moment of replacement, your computer, what it's going to do is it's going to copy that miles value and make a new spot in memory for it. So right now we have 2 spots in memory that contain a variable called miles. One of them, they are both of value 3 in this very moment. However, when we jump down to this line here, all of a sudden the second miles in memory has become 8 because it added 5 to it. So remember, we have 1 miles in memory, that is of value 3, and that's in the main method. And then we have another miles in memory that's of value 8, and that's in this method right now. And so when we go one more down in this run method, it's going to, when it prints out system.out.println miles after running plus miles, that's going to print the 8 value in memory because that's the value that exists in this run method. Great. And then we exit this method and we go back to main. So now that we're back inside main, your computer is going to reference the first miles. And what is that value? That's 3 again. So if we were to do system.out.println and we said miles after running in main, it's going to see this miles variable, and in the body of the main method here, see these brackets? The miles that it knows, the miles that it has a relationship with in this main method is this miles here. So as you can see in a specific method, all of those primitive value types are specific in that method. So there are 1 miles in the main method right here, and then there's another miles in the run method. And just to review, other types of primitive values are those lowercase values, like Boolean, integer, double, and char. Those are the ones that will have different spots in memories for each one that you declare. So let's see if this turned out to be 3, and then remember when we call run, it's going to print out what the miles is in that method, and then 3 again. So we should get 383. And look at that, 383.
All right, so Kate just showed us how passing variables by value works. Now we're going to look at passing variables by reference. And the reference type that we're going to be passing is a water bottle. And reference types are called that because when you pass them into a method, you're passing, instead of like we saw with value types, making a copy of the value and then working with that value, you're passing a reference to the same object. You could also hear this called a pointer to the same object in memory. So instead of creating a new instance, a new location in memory to hold the same value, we just pass a reference to one location in memory in both our main method and a different method. So we are going to be using the drink method that we wrote in our athlete class. So our athlete that we have in our main method is called overachiever. So we're going to call overachiever.drink and pass in our bottle. So we overachiever.drinkBottle. And so we can keep track of the state of things while this goes on. Before that happens, we're going to system.out.println. We're going to say ounces before drinking. And we're going to call our get ounces here. And then we're going to do the same thing after the method call to see what's going on. So when we click run, what should happen is this line will first print ounces before drinking, which should start out at 24, right? Because our water bottle's ounces is initialized to 24. Then we call overachiever.drink. So then we'll go over here and drink and call and pass in this bottle, which is a reference type. So instead of passing in the value of our water bottle, we'll be passing a reference to this bottle, this water bottle object. So when we call bottle.empty, we're not working with a copy of that water bottle. We're actually talking about the same water bottle in memory. So then when we print ounces after drinking, we should actually see a change. So when we click run, sure enough, we see ounces before drinking is 24, and then after drinking is 0. So even though the change happened over here in a different method, because we were passing the variable by reference, because water bottle is a complex object, it's a reference type, our changes that we make in this method affected this water bottle variable here. And just as a review, because we have things named, some similar things here, oftentimes names to Java don't matter. So here we could rename this to a bottle, and everything would work fine. And miles here, we could rename to like some miles, and that works fine. These over here, this miles and bottle don't have to be the same name as these things. That doesn't make any difference. And we could have named these classes and all these variable names anything we wanted to, and everything would just work the same way. So here, when we say overachiever.drinkBottle, when we pass in that bottle, before we were passing in a value type. So the method made a copy of that value in memory. Here we're passing a reference type. So it's like if Kate actually threw me a water bottle, and I knew we were talking about the same water bottle object, versus if we were talking, if I were to look at a number that she had and copy down my own version of that number. All right, and that's all we have for today.
So we hope you valued our video and reference it frequently.
And we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.